The Chinook helicopter bucked through turbulent air as it descended toward forward operating base Sentinel. Staff Sergeant Maya Chen pressed her forehead against the vibrating window, watching the barren Afghan mountains rise like jagged teeth from the desert floor. Her hands gripped her custom rifle case so tightly her knuckles had gone white. 28 years old, and everything she'd worked for came down to this moment. 2 minutes, the crew chief shouted over the rotor noise. Maya's stomach twisted, not from the flight, she'd done plenty of those. It was what waited on the ground. Viper Team, the Army's elite sniper unit, all male, all skeptical, all waiting to see her fail. The helicopter's skids hit dirt, and a wall of dust engulfed everything. Maya grabbed her gear and jumped out, boots hitting Afghan soil for the first time. The rotor wash whipped her tied-back hair as she jogged clear of the bird. Soldiers stopped what they were doing to stare. She could feel their eyes like physical weight, judgment in every glance. Staff Sergeant Chen, a tall officer, approached, his desert camouflage crisp despite the dust. Captain Jake Morrison, West Point ring glinting on his finger, Ranger tab on his shoulder, eyes cold as January steel. "Yes, sir," Maya saluted sharply. Morrison's return salute was perfunctory. "Follow me." No welcome, no handshake, just clipped professionalism that barely masked skepticism. They walked through the fob in silence. Concrete barriers, guard towers, armored vehicles parked in neat rows. Home for the next year. Morrison led her to a plywood building marked Operations. Inside, the air conditioning was a shock after the brutal heat. "Viper Team doesn't babysit," Morrison said without preamble, unrolling a map on the scarred wooden table. "We're a precision instrument. Everyone here has earned their place through blood and bullets. You'll get no special treatment because of your gender, and you'll get no sympathy if you can't keep up." "I don't want either, sir," Maya replied, meeting his eyes. "Just a fair chance." Something flickered in Morrison's expression, doubt, maybe curiosity. "Fair is what you make it out here. Briefing at 600 tomorrow. Dismissed." Maya found her quarters, a separate room in the female soldiers' building away from the team barracks, isolated before she'd even begun. She unpacked methodically, clothes, toiletries, photos of her family. One picture she lingered on, her older brother Marcus in his army uniform, killed in action 3 years ago. This was for him, to prove the Chens belonged in combat, that her family's sacrifice meant something. Dinner time arrived. The mess hall buzzed with conversation that died the instant Maya walked in. Every head turned. She forced herself to walk normally to the serving line, acutely aware of the silence following her like a shadow. "Well, well, well," a booming voice shattered the quiet. "Look what they sent us, boys." Sergeant First Class Derek Garrett Bull, according to his name tape, stood up from a table full of soldiers. He was massive, 6'4" and built like his nickname, with a shaved head and arms covered in combat tattoos. His grin was predatory. "Our new diversity hire has arrived," Bull announced to the room. "What do you think, team? Think she can handle this?" Laughter erupted. Not friendly laughter, cruel mocking, designed to break her down. "I heard she shot expert at Bennying," someone called out. "Bennying?" Bull scoffed. "My grandmother could shoot expert at Bennying. This is Afghanistan, sweetheart. Real bullets. Real consequences. When you're crying for a medevac in 2 weeks, don't say we didn't warn you." Maya stood frozen, tray in hand, every instinct screaming to defend herself, to fight back. Instead, she found an empty table in the corner and sat alone. She ate mechanically, tasting nothing, while conversations resumed around her like she didn't exist. After dinner, she walked to her quarters under a sky full of unfamiliar stars. Through the darkness, she sensed rather than saw a figure watching from near the operations building. Tall, older, perfectly still. Master Sergeant Victor Thompson, Ghost, the legendary sniper, the silent observer. In her room, Maya locked the door and sat on her bunk. Her hands shook as she opened her rifle case, assembling her custom weapon with practiced precision. Each piece clicked into place, scope, barrel, stock. This rifle was her voice when words failed. Tomorrow she'd let it speak. She lay down fully clothed, staring at the ceiling. Bull's words echoed in her mind. She can't handle this. Maya's jaw set with determination. "Watch me," she whispered to the empty room. Outside, Ghost remained in the shadows, having seen something in the new arrival that others missed. In her eyes, he'd recognized a familiar fire, the kind that couldn't be extinguished by mockery or doubt, the kind that only burned brighter under pressure. Tomorrow, the real test would begin. Dawn painted the Hindu Kush mountains in shades of orange and gold as Maya stood on the qualification range. She'd barely slept, adrenaline and anxiety warring in her chest. Today would determine everything, whether she stayed or went home in disgrace. Bull lounged against the observation tower, arms crossed, surrounded by the rest of Viper team. 6 men, all watching her like vultures circling wounded prey. Specialist Tommy Reyes looked almost sympathetic, but he kept his distance. Ghost stood apart from the group, unreadable behind dark sunglasses. "Standard qualification," Captain Morrison announced, clipboard in hand. 600 meters, then 800, then 1,000. 5 shots each distance. Passing is 4 out of 5. Chen, you're up first. Maya approached the firing line, settling into prone position. Her custom rifle felt like an extension of her body, every curve familiar, every adjustment memorized. She'd built this weapon herself, spent countless hours perfecting it. "Nice toy," Bull called out. "Bet that fancy setup does half the work for you." Maya ignored him. Breathe. Focus. The first target appeared at 600 meters. She calculated wind speed by watching the grass sway, adjusted for elevation, felt her heartbeat slow. Between one beat and the next, she squeezed the trigger. The distant target pinged, dead center. 4 more shots, 4 more perfect hits. 800, Morrison called. The mockery from the tower quieted. Maya shifted position, recalculated. The wind had picked up, swirling unpredictably through the valley. Tricky but manageable. 5 more shots. 5 more hits. Bull's smirk had faded. "Anyone can shoot with custom equipment," he announced loudly. "Real snipers make do with what they're given. Chen, you want to prove yourself. Use standard issue. Show us its skill, not your expensive rifle doing the work." Morrison looked at her. "You don't have to." "I'll do it," Maya interrupted, standing up. She met Bull's eyes. "Standard M110, no modifications." She could have refused, should have refused. But she understood the game now. Every concession she made bought her nothing, but every challenge she met silenced one more excuse. The weapons sergeant brought her a stock rifle, fresh from the armory. Maya checked it quickly, decent condition, standard scope, nothing special. She settled back into position. 1,000 meters, Morrison announced. 5 shots. This was different. The unfamiliar rifle had different weight, different balance. The scope's reticle was slightly off from what she was used to. Maya had 30 seconds to adapt to a weapon she'd never fired before, at the longest distance yet. The first shot went wide, 1 inch left of center. "Knew it," Bull muttered. Maya made a minute adjustment. The second shot hit center mass. Then the third, fourth, fifth, 4 out of 5 passing but not perfect. She stood, handed the rifle back, and returned to her custom weapon. "May I continue, sir?" Morrison nodded, something like respect flickering in his eyes. Maya's final 5 shots at 1,000 meters with her own rifle were flawless. Every single one dead center, grouped so tightly they could be covered by a quarter. The range fell silent. Ghost spoke for the first time, his voice gravelly. "Best grouping I've seen in 5 years." "Shooting's only half the job," Bull recovered quickly. "Physical endurance next. Let's see if she can carry her weight." The endurance test was brutal. 12 miles through mountain terrain in full combat gear. 60-pound pack, rifle, ammunition, body armor. in 95-degree heat. Maya started strong, keeping pace with the middle of the pack. At mile 4, she felt her pack shift strangely. By mile 6, gear was falling out. Someone had loosened the straps. Her water bladder leaked, soaking her back. She didn't stop, didn't complain, just cinched the pack tighter with paracord from her kit and kept moving. Her feet blistered, her shoulders screamed. Dehydration made her dizzy, but she finished, not first but far from last. Blood seeped through her boots as she crossed the line. Lieutenant Sarah Park, the intelligence officer, found her afterward in the medical tent. "Maya, they sabotaged your gear. I saw Bull near your pack before the run." Maya looked down at her bandaged feet. "I know. You should report it." "And say what? That I can't handle a little hazing?" Maya shook her head. "I finish what I start, Sarah, my way." That evening, Morrison called a team meeting. Maya stood in the back, acutely aware of every hostile glance. "Chen has qualified in all categories," Morrison announced. "She's earned her first mission assignment, routine overwatch, convoy protection, Valley Sector 7. Bull's hand shot up. "Sir, request permission to be her spotter." Morrison frowned. "You sure, Garrett?" Bull's smile was cold, calculated. "Absolutely, sir. I'll keep her safe out there. Personally guarantee it." Tommy's eyes widened in alarm. Ghost's jaw tightened. They both knew what Maya was only beginning to understand. This wasn't acceptance. This was Bull taking the game to the next level. In the field with no witnesses, accidents happen all the time. Morrison, oblivious or indifferent, nodded. "Approved. You deploy at 400, dismissed." As the team filed out, Ghost caught Maya's arm. He said nothing, just looked at her with an intensity that conveyed everything. "Be careful. Trust no one. Come back alive." Maya nodded. She understood perfectly. Tomorrow, the real test began. The Blackhawk's rotors cut through pre-dawn darkness as Maya and Bull flew toward their insertion point. Neither had spoken since leaving the fob. Bull sat across from her, cleaning his rifle with exaggerated casualness, occasionally glancing at her with an expression she couldn't read. Maya checked her equipment for the third time. Rifle, ammunition, radio, water, medical kit. Everything perfect. Everything had to be perfect because she was alone out here with a man who wanted her to fail, or worse. 2 minutes, the pilot called. The helicopter descended toward a rocky ridgeline overlooking the valley. Below, darkness still blanketed the convoy route where American forces would pass in 4 hours. Their job was simple: overwatch, early warning, eliminate any threats to the convoy. They fast-roped down, and the Blackhawk disappeared into the night sky. Sudden silence engulfed them, broken only by wind whistling through the rocks. Bull moved ahead without waiting, forcing Maya to follow his pace up the slope to their hide position. They settled into a natural depression between boulders, perfect cover with clear sightlines down the valley. Bull set up the spotting scope while Maya positioned her rifle. Professional, mechanical, zero communication beyond the necessary. "Range to primary observation point?" Maya asked. Bull barely glanced through his scope. 800 meters, wind 4 knots east. Maya checked her own instruments. The wind was clearly 7 knots and coming from the west, not east. She said nothing, making her own calculations silently. 2 hours passed. The sun rose, painting the valley in harsh light. Maya's radio crackled. The convoy was ahead of schedule, approaching their sector 30 minutes early. "Convoy rolling," Morrison's voice came through. "Any visual?" "Negative," Bull responded lazily. "All clear." But Maya's scope had caught movement. 500 meters south, partially hidden behind a mud brick compound. Men with weapons moving with purpose. Her heart rate spiked. Bull South compound, 500 meters. Multiple armed individuals. "Probably locals," Bull dismissed without looking. "Farmers carry rifles here." "Farmers don't move in tactical formation." Maya's voice was tight. The convoy appeared around the bend, 3 Humvees vulnerable in the open road. The armed men shifted, weapons rising. This was an ambush. "I have hostile intent," Maya called into her radio. "Request permission to engage." "Negative," Bull cut in. "Chen seeing things, sir, no threat present." The lead insurgent shouldered an RPG. Maya didn't hesitate. She abandoned Bull's wind calculations, trusted her own reading. 7 knots west, 800 meters, moving target. She exhaled completely, finger on trigger, leading the target by 18 inches. The shot cracked across the valley. The insurgent with the RPG dropped, the rocket launcher clattering unfired onto the rocks. The convoy immediately took evasive action, drivers trained to recognize sniper fire as a warning. "Contact," Maya called. "Multiple insurgents south compound." 3 more fighters broke cover, running for flanking positions. Bull finally looked through his scope, face draining of color as he realized the threat was real. Maya didn't wait for him. First target 750 meters, moving fast. She led him squeezed, down. Second target taking cover behind a wall. She waited 3 seconds until he exposed himself. Down. Third target, smartest of the group, zigzagging toward a machine gun position. Hardest shot yet. Moving target, variable speed, 820 meters. Maya's training took over, muscle memory, mathematics, instinct blending into one. She fired. The insurgent tumbled mid-stride. 3 shots, 3 kills, 14 seconds total. Bull grabbed for the radio to call in air support. Nothing happened. He clicked it repeatedly. "Radio's dead." Maya snatched it from him, switched frequencies, her voice calm despite adrenaline flooding her system. "Sentinel, this is Viper 2. Contact south, grid November Papa 4792. Request immediate QRF. Multiple enemy KIA, convoy is green." "Roger, Viper 2. QRF inbound, 8 minutes." The firefight lasted 6 more minutes. Maya identified targets, called positions, coordinated the convoy's defensive fire. When 2 insurgents tried to flank from the east, she saw them first, eliminated them before they could fire a shot. By the time the quick reaction force arrived, 7 enemy fighters lay dead. 0 American casualties. The convoy commander's voice crackled through. "Viper 2, that was the finest shooting I've ever witnessed. You saved our lives. Who's your sniper?" Bull reached for the radio, but Maya was faster. "Staff Sergeant Chen, sir." Silence on the other end then. "Outstanding work, Staff Sergeant. Drinks on me when you're back." The extraction helicopter arrived an hour later. Bull said nothing during the flight, staring at his rifle, his radio, equipment that had mysteriously malfunctioned at the critical moment. Back at Sentinel, Morrison was waiting on the landing pad. "Chen, excellent work out there. Textbook precision under pressure." "Thank you, sir." Morrison turned to Bull. "Garrett, equipment failure report on my desk by 1800. That radio was inspected yesterday." "Yes, sir." Bull's voice was flat. As they walked to debriefing, Bull muttered just loud enough for Maya to hear. "Lucky shots. When it really matters, when the pressure's real, you'll crack like all the rest." Maya kept walking, but her hands trembled slightly. Not from fear, from anger. She'd saved lives today, performed flawlessly under fire, and it still wasn't enough. That evening, Ghost found her cleaning her rifle in the armory. He sat down across from her, silent for a long moment. "Your radio worked fine yesterday during checks," he finally said. "I know. Bull was near it this morning, before you deployed." "I know that too." Ghost's eyes were hard. "This isn't hazing anymore, Chen. This is dangerous." "What do you want me to do?" Maya looked up, exhausted. "Report him? With what proof? His word against mine." "I want you to watch your back," Ghost said quietly. "Because next time he might not just want you to fail, he might want you dead." Maya returned to cleaning her rifle, each stroke of the cloth methodical, meditative. Ghost was right. Everything had changed today. She'd proven she could shoot, proven she could perform under pressure. But she'd also made an enemy, willing to sabotage equipment in a combat zone. The real war wasn't against the Taliban anymore. It was right here, inside her own team. 3 days after the convoy mission, Maya sat alone in the mess hall picking at her breakfast when a tray clattered down across from her. Specialist Tommy Reyes slid into the seat, glancing nervously over his shoulder. "That wind reading you made," Tommy said quietly, "the 7 knots west when Bull called 4 east. How'd you know?" Maya studied him carefully. Was this genuine curiosity or another setup? Observation. Grass movement, dust patterns feel on my skin. Why? Because I've been doing this for 2 years and I still get it wrong half the time. Tommy leaned forward. "Teach me." For the first time since arriving at Sentinel, Maya felt something warm bloom in her chest. Hope. Tonight, the range, 2300 hours. Tommy nodded and left quickly. Maya didn't see Bull watching from the doorway, his face darkening with rage. That night, Maya and Tommy spent 2 hours on the range. She taught him everything: how to read mirage through a scope, how temperature gradients affected bullet trajectory, how to calculate Coriolis' effect on extreme-range shots. Tommy absorbed it all like a desperate student. "Why are you helping me?" he finally asked. "Because someone helped me once," Maya said simply, "and because we're supposed to be a team." They became a routine: midnight training sessions, shared tactical discussions, a genuine partnership forming. For the first time, Maya had an ally. But alliances have consequences. Bull cornered Tommy outside the barracks on the 4th night. Maya heard the shouting and rushed over to find Bull shoving Tommy against the plywood wall. "Fraternizing with the diversity hire," Bull snarled. "You think that makes you special, Reyes? You think she's gonna save your ass when bullets fly?" "She already saved a whole convoy," Tommy shot back. "More than you did sitting on your radio pretending it was broken." Bull's fist flew. Tommy blocked it, and suddenly other team members were pulling them apart. Morrison appeared, his voice cutting through the chaos like a blade. "Stand down, all of you." The team split visibly, Tommy and 2 others on one side, Bull and 3 supporters on the other. Maya stood alone in the middle, the fault line that had cracked the team wide open. Morrison pointed at his office. "My office, now Chen Garrett Reyes." The dressing down was epic. Morrison's face was red with fury. "I don't care what your personal problems are. We have a mission. We are soldiers. Act like it." But the damage was done. Viper team was fractured and everyone knew it. 2 days later, Lieutenant Sarah Park burst into Maya's quarters with urgent intelligence. "Major enemy activity in the Southern Valley. Possible staging area for a large-scale attack. I need eyes on the ground for confirmation." Morrison called an emergency briefing. Sarah displayed satellite imagery showing unusual vehicle movements, heat signatures, patterns suggesting something big. "I need a recon team," Morrison said. 2-person insert, observe and report. Volunteers." Maya's hand went up. Tommy's followed immediately. Bull exploded. "You're sending her on actual intelligence gathering. This is a mistake, sir." "Noted, Sergeant Garrett," Morrison said coldly. "Chen Reyes, you deploy at dawn. Get your gear ready." The mission went flawlessly. Maya and Tommy inserted via helicopter into a ridgeline overlooking the valley. What they found made Maya's blood run cold: dozens of vehicles, weapons caches, hundreds of fighters. This wasn't a staging area. This was preparation for a major offensive. "Sentinel, we have confirmation," Maya whispered into her radio. "This is big, really big." They photographed everything, documented positions, counted personnel. Professional, precise. When they extracted 12 hours later, they had actionable intelligence that could save American lives. Back at base, Maya presented their findings to Morrison and the command staff. Bull sat in the back of the briefing room, arms crossed, face thunderous. These photographs are clear evidence, a major said, studying the images. Excellent work, Staff Sergeant. It's fabricated, Bull interrupted, standing up. She's manufacturing intel to make herself look good. I've seen it before. People desperate to prove themselves will do anything. The room went silent. Maya felt like she'd been punched. Are you questioning my integrity, Sergeant? Her voice was dangerously quiet. I'm questioning your desperation, Bull shot back. Convenient how the new girl finds the intelligence jackpot her first solo mission. Morrison slammed his hand on the table. That's enough. This intelligence will be verified. I'm sending a full team to confirm. And Garrett, you're going with them. If Chen's lying, you can expose her yourself. If she's telling the truth, you owe her an apology. Bull's smile was vicious. Happy to go, sir. When do we deploy? Tomorrow, 400. Full team. Chen, you'll guide us to the exact location. Maya nodded, but something felt wrong. Bull was too cooperative, too eager. She caught Ghost's eye across the room. He looked worried. That night, as Maya prepped her gear, Ghost appeared in the armory doorway. He's planning something, Ghost said without preamble. I know. The mission timeline, the route. He knows all of it now. If he wanted to compromise the operation. What can I do? Maya asked, frustration boiling over. Refuse to go. That proves I'm afraid, proves I can't handle it. Ghost was quiet for a long moment. Just promise me something. When it goes bad, and it will go bad, you trust yourself. Not him, not anyone else. Your instincts kept you alive so far. Don't abandon them now. The next morning, the full team loaded into 2 helicopters. 7 soldiers, including Maya, Morrison, Ghost, Bull, Tommy, and 2 others. The insertion was smooth, the approach tactical and professional. They reached the ridge overlooking the valley. Everything was exactly as Maya had documented: vehicles, weapons, fighters moving in organized patterns. She was right, one soldier muttered. Bull said nothing, but his jaw was clenched tight. Then Maya saw it, a reflection from a nearby hillside, someone watching them with optics. Her stomach dropped. We're compromised, she whispered urgently. Someone knows we're here. Morrison grabbed his radio. All units prepare for. The world exploded. RPGs screamed from 3 directions. Machine gun fire tore through their position. The carefully planned ambush was perfect, professional, and absolutely deadly. They'd been set up. Maya dove behind rocks as bullets shredded the air where she'd been standing. Ghost pulled her further into cover, his face grim. How did they know? Tommy screamed over the gunfire. Maya looked at Bull, who was firing his rifle, his face showing something she'd never seen before, genuine fear. But also guilt. The terrible realization crashed over her. Bull hadn't tipped off the enemy directly. He'd been careless, talked too openly, maybe mentioned the mission timeline where it could be overheard or intercepted. His hatred had made him sloppy, and now they were all paying the price. An explosion rocked their position. Ghost pushed Maya down, and she felt his body jerk. Blood sprayed across her face. Ghost, she screamed. He slumped against the rocks, a bullet hole in his shoulder, blood pumping out in rhythm with his heartbeat. His eyes found hers, and despite the pain, they were clear and focused. He pressed his custom rifle into her hands, the weapon he'd carried for 15 years, through 3 wars, countless missions. Show them, he gasped, blood on his lips. Show them who you are. Morrison's voice cut through the chaos. Air support 20 minutes out. We need to hold. Maya looked around their position. 7 soldiers, now 6 combat effective, surrounded on 3 sides by at least 60 enemy fighters. 20 minutes might as well be 20 hours. But in her hands was Ghost's rifle, perfectly zeroed, intimately familiar to her from watching him shoot. And despite everything, the betrayal, the fear, the blood, she felt something cold and focused settle over her. They wanted to see what she could do under real pressure. She'd show them exactly what Staff Sergeant Maya Chen was made of. The long night was just beginning. Maya pressed her hand against Ghost's wound, his blood hot and slick against her palm. "Stay with me," she whispered. "Go," Ghost gasped, pushing her away. "Do your job." She grabbed his rifle and scrambled to the highest point in their defensive position, a rocky outcrop with clear sightlines across the valley. Bullets cracked overhead, kicking up dust and stone fragments. Below, Morrison coordinated desperately with the quick reaction force, while Tommy and the others returned fire blindly. Maya settled into prone position, forcing her breathing to slow despite the chaos. Through Ghost's scope, the battlefield crystallized into mathematical precision. 12 tangos advancing from the east, 8 from the west, and a heavy machine gun team setting up north, the real threat. The machine gun crew was 1,200 meters away, obscured by heat mirage and fading light. Impossible shot by any standard. But if they got that gun operational, everyone in this position died. Maya calculated wind speed, elevation, temperature, the Coriolis' effect on extreme range. Her first shot rang out. Through the scope, she watched the machine gunner's head snap back. He crumpled. The assistant gunner froze in shock. Maya's second shot dropped him too. "Holy," someone breathed over the radio. "Was that Chen?" "Impossible," Bull muttered from his position. "That's over a kilometer in bad light." Maya wasn't listening. She'd entered the zone, that transcendent state where the world narrowed to breath, trigger, target. Nothing else existed. Her calm voice cut through the panicked radio chatter. "Tommy, suppress left flank 3 o'clock. Bull, cover our 6, 9 o'clock. "I don't take orders from," Bull started. "Do it," Morrison roared. "Chen has overwatch, follow her directions." Maya identified the enemy squad leader, obvious from how others deferred to him, how he directed fire. 700 meters, moving between cover. She waited 3 seconds until he paused to radio his own forces. One shot he dropped. The enemy advance faltered without coordination. "Bull, you're 6 o'clock, 3 fighters in the rocks," Maya called. Bull spun, but too slow. The insurgents were raising their rifles when Maya's shots rang out. 3 targets, 4 seconds, 3 kills at 600 meters. She just saved Bull's life. Through her scope, she saw his face, shock, confusion, shame warring across his features. Then an RPG screamed toward their position, and there was no time for anything but survival. "RPG left," Maya shouted. Everyone flattened. The explosion shook the earth, showering them with debris. Tommy screamed. Shrapnel had torn into his leg. He tried to crawl to cover, exposed and vulnerable. Bull hesitated for one terrible second. Then he moved, sprinting through enemy fire, grabbing Tommy and dragging him to safety. Bullets chased them both, kicking up dirt. Bull took 2 rounds in his body armor, the impact driving him to his knees, but he didn't let go of Tommy. Maya covered them, firing as fast as she could acquire targets. 5 insurgents went down in the time it took Bull to drag Tommy 15 meters. "Man down, Tommy's hit," Bull gasped into his radio, and Maya heard something she'd never heard before, genuine fear for someone else in his voice. Morrison crawled to Tommy, applying pressure to the wound. "He's stable, keep them off us." The sun was setting now, darkness creeping across the valley. Maya's advantage was disappearing. But the enemy knew a sniper was active. They moved more cautiously, more fearfully. She made them pay for every inch. A fighter tried to flank from the south. Maya saw the muzzle flash before she saw him. 1 shot, down. Another team tried to rush their position under covering fire. Maya picked them off methodically, lead runner, then second, then the third who tried to retreat. No mercy, no hesitation. 11 confirmed kills. The enemy advance had stalled. Morrison's radio crackled. "Viper actual, this is Reaper 1-1. 2 Apache gunships inbound, ETA 12 minutes. Mark your position." Finally, someone sobbed with relief. But 12 minutes was an eternity. The enemy knew air support was coming. They'd try one massive push before the helicopters arrived. Maya saw them massing in a wadi 800 meters east, at least 20 fighters preparing to charge. "They're coming," she said quietly. "Everyone conserve ammo, wait for my signal." Bull looked up at her from where he crouched with Tommy. Their eyes met across 30 feet of bullet-torn ground. For the first time, there was no hatred in his gaze, just raw, honest acknowledgement. She'd proven herself a dozen times over tonight, saved his life, saved all their lives. "Chen," Bull said, his voice rough, "that machine gun shot, I've never seen anything like it." "Save it for later," Maya replied, eye returning to her scope. "We're not out yet." The enemy fighters began their charge, screaming, firing wildly. Maya's voice came over the radio, steady as stone. "Here they come, 3, 2, 1, fire." The defensive line erupted. Rifles cracked in disciplined rhythm. But it was Maya's precision fire that broke the charge, squad leaders dropping, the men carrying RPGs eliminated before they could fire, the bravest fighters falling first. The enemy attack shattered against their position like waves on rock. Then the beautiful sound of rotor blades filled the air. 2 Apache crested the ridgeline, and Maya's radio directions guided their 13 cannons with devastating accuracy. Grid November Papa 4793, enemy concentration in the wadi. The cannons roared, the valley lit up with explosions. The enemy broke, retreating in disarray. The quick reaction force arrived 8 minutes later, armored vehicles, fresh troops, medical personnel. Maya stayed in position until friendly forces secured the perimeter, her eye never leaving the scope, even when her hands started shaking from exhaustion and adrenaline crash. Only when Morrison physically touched her shoulder did she finally lower the rifle. "It's over," he said gently. "You can stand down." Maya tried to stand, but her legs wouldn't work. Morrison caught her as she collapsed. They loaded Ghost onto the first medevac helicopter. His face was gray from blood loss, but his eyes were alert. As they carried him past Maya, he reached out weakly and gripped her hand. "You're the best shot I've ever seen," he whispered. "Better than me, better than anyone." Tears streamed down Maya's face. "You're going to be okay." "I know because you kept them off us," Ghost smiled faintly. "My daughter, when I tell her about tonight, she's going to want to be just like you." They loaded him into the helicopter, and it lifted off into the dark sky. Tommy went on the second bird, giving Maya a weak thumbs up as they carried him aboard. "You saved my life," he mouthed. Bull stood nearby, watching the evacuations. His body armor showed 2 deep dents where bullets had hit. Without it, he'd be dead. He knew it. Everyone knew it. He walked over to Maya slowly, and she tensed, unsure what was coming. Bull extended his hand. "I was wrong," he said simply, "about everything." Maya stared at his hand for a long moment. Every instinct screamed not to trust him, not after everything. But she saw something in his eyes she'd never seen before, genuine humility, genuine respect. She took his hand. "We'll talk when we get back," she said quietly. The flight back to Sentinel was silent. Maya sat in the helicopter, Ghost's blood still on her hands, rifle across her lap. She'd made 17 confirmed kills tonight, saved 7 American lives, performed under the worst possible pressure and not just survived, excelled. But the victory felt hollow. Ghost was wounded. Tommy was wounded. Men had almost died because of sabotage, carelessness, hatred. The cost of proving herself kept getting higher. When would it be enough? Maya sat in the medical bay, a nurse cleaning Ghost's blood from her hands. Her shoulder ached where she'd slammed into rocks during the firefight. Minor cuts covered her face, but she was alive, and that was more than she'd expected 12 hours ago. Captain Morrison entered, his face grave. "Chen, we need to talk." She followed him to a secure briefing room where two officers from Criminal Investigation Command waited. Her stomach dropped. CID meant someone was in serious trouble. Staff Sergeant Chen, the senior investigator, began, "We're reviewing the circumstances of yesterday's ambush. Specifically, how enemy forces knew your team's location and timing." For 3 hours they questioned her. Every detail of the mission planning, who had access to information, any suspicious behavior. Maya answered honestly, but she refused to directly accuse Bull. Let the evidence speak. And it did. CID had intercepted communications. Bull's phone call to his sister 2 days before the mission, speaking too openly about finally proving the girl can't handle real combat, and mentioning the Valley sector. The call had been routed through a compromised cell tower. Enemy intelligence had been listening. Bull hadn't deliberately betrayed them, but his reckless hatred had gotten people shot. Morrison summoned Bull to his office. Maya wasn't supposed to hear the confrontation, but the plywood walls were thin. "You compromised operational security," Morrison's voice thundered. "Ghost is in surgery right now because you couldn't keep your mouth shut." "I didn't know the line was compromised," Bull's voice cracked. "I never meant." "Intent doesn't matter. Results matter. You were so obsessed with proving Chen wrong that you endangered your entire team." Silence, then a sound Maya never expected: Bull crying. Not quiet tears, but deep, wrenching sobs. "My brother," Bull gasped out. "My little brother Marcus. He died in Helmand. A female soldier was supposed to provide cover fire. She froze. He died because she couldn't handle the pressure." Maya's hand flew to her mouth. Marcus. Her brother's name was Marcus too. "She froze," Bull continued, his voice breaking. "And I watched them carry my brother's body off that helicopter. I swore I'd never trust a woman in combat again. I swore." "So you projected your grief onto Chen." Morrison's voice was cold. "You nearly killed her for someone else's failure." "I know," Bull shouted. "Don't you think I know that? She saved my life last night. I watched her make impossible shots in the dark while I was too busy being a coward. She's twice the soldier I am, and I almost got her killed because I couldn't let go of my dead brother." Maya leaned against the wall outside, tears streaming down her face. All this time, Bull's hatred hadn't been about her at all. It was about his pain, his loss, his inability to forgive. She understood. God help her, she understood completely. The door opened. Bull stumbled out, face red and swollen. He saw Maya and froze. "How much did you hear?" he asked quietly. "Enough." They stood in the hallway, two soldiers broken by the same war in different ways. "I'm being recommended for non-judicial punishment," Bull said. "Probably losing rank, maybe getting reassigned. Morrison says it's up to you whether CID presses charges for endangerment." Maya should have felt vindicated. This was justice. This was Bull finally facing consequences. But all she felt was tired. "What was your brother's name?" she asked. Marcus Garrett." "My brother was Marcus too, Marcus Chen, killed 3 years ago in Kandahar." Maya met Bull's shocked eyes. "I joined Combat Arms because of him, to prove the Chens weren't quitters, to prove his sacrifice meant something." Bull's face crumbled. "Oh God, we're the same. We've been fighting the same war." "No," Maya said firmly. "We've been fighting each other. The war is out there." She pointed toward the valley where men had tried to kill them. "Not in here." She took a deep breath. "I'm not pressing charges, but you're getting help, therapy, whatever you need to work through this. And you're going to stand in front of the team and tell them the truth." "Why?" Bull whispered. "Why show me mercy after everything?" "Because Ghost almost died last night. Tommy's in surgery. We can't afford to keep destroying each other." Maya's voice hardened. "But this is your last chance. You sabotage me again, you endanger this team again, and I'll end your career myself. Clear?" "Crystal," Bull extended his hand. "I don't deserve your forgiveness." You're right, you don't. Maya shook his hand anyway. Earn it. That afternoon, Morrison assembled the team. Bull stood before them, his face pale but resolute. I compromised our mission, he said. My personal issues, my inability to let go of the past, nearly got us all killed. Staff Sergeant Chen saved my life. Saved all our lives. She's a better soldier than I am, and I owe her an apology I can never fully give. The room was silent. I'm accepting non-judicial punishment and mandatory counseling, Bull continued. If any of you have a problem with Chen, you have a problem with me now. She's earned her place here 100 times over. Tommy, back from surgery on crutches, spoke up. Damn right she has. One by one, the team nodded agreement. Maya felt something shift, not acceptance exactly, but the beginning of it. Respect earned in blood and fire. Lieutenant Park found Maya later in the mess hall. You hear about Ghost? What? Maya's heart clenched. Surgery went perfectly. He's stable, retiring with full honors, heading home to his daughter. Sarah smiled. He left you something. She handed Maya a wooden box. Inside was Ghost's custom scope, the one he'd used for 15 years. A note read, "For the best shot I've ever seen, make them remember your name. Ghost." Maya clutched the box, tears falling freely now. She'd proven herself. She'd survived. She'd even found a path to reconciliation with her worst enemy. But the cost was so high. That evening, new intelligence arrived. Lieutenant Park burst into the operations center, face flushed with urgency. We've got him, she announced. The Scorpion, high-value target, confirmed location. The Scorpion, an enemy sniper responsible for killing 3 American snipers and wounding a dozen more. Ghost had been hunting him for 2 years. Now Ghost was gone, headed home. Morrison studied the intel, then looked at Maya. This is volunteer only, deep penetration, high risk, probable contact. The Scorpion knows we're hunting him. He'll be ready. He paused, letting the weight settle. Chen, you're the best shot we have now. If you want this mission, it's yours, but I won't order you. You've done enough. Maya thought of Ghost, of his daughter who wanted to be a soldier. She thought of Marcus, her brother who never came home. She thought of every sniper the Scorpion had killed. I'm in, she said. Then, we need volunteers for security element. I'll go, Bull stepped forward. Morrison raised an eyebrow. You sure, Garrett? Bull looked at Maya. She's going to need the best spotter available. That's me. We got a problem last time because I wasn't trustworthy. Won't happen again. Tommy raised his hand despite his crutches. I can't walk point, but I can shoot. I'm in. One by one, the team volunteered, every single member. Morrison nodded slowly, something like pride in his eyes. Then we move in 72 hours. Chen, your lead sniper, plan the mission. Maya stood before the map, her team gathered around her. Not outcasts anymore, not enemies. Just soldiers, ready to hunt the most dangerous target of their lives. Okay, she said, her voice steady. Let's talk about how we kill the Scorpion. Briefing room fell silent as Maya unrolled the terrain map across the table. Satellite imagery showed a remote compound in the mountains, the Scorpion's suspected location, confirmed by 3 separate intelligence sources. He knows we're coming, Maya said, pointing to the defensive positions visible in the photos. The Scorpion has killed 3 American snipers. He's patient, skilled, and he's turned counter-sniping into an art form. He studies his targets, learns their patterns, then uses their own tactics against them. Lieutenant Park added context. Real name unknown. Age estimated 45. Former Soviet-trained marksman. He's responsible for 17 confirmed American KIAs and 32 wounded. He's Ghost's white whale. Bull studied the map with professional focus. 72 hours to target means we're going deep. No QRF support. No air cover until we're exfiltrating. We're on our own. Exactly, Morrison confirmed. This is Black Ops territory. If it goes wrong, nobody's coming. Maya traced the infiltration route. We insert here, 30 clicks out. Move on foot through these valleys, avoid population centers. Final approach at night. Bull and I take primary sniper position. Tommy and Reyes provide security. Morrison coordinates from secondary position. Rules of engagement, Tommy asked. The Scorpion and any hostiles who engage, Morrison said. But remember, he'll have security too. Professionals, this won't be easy. They spent 6 hours refining the plan, studying every angle, preparing for contingencies. Maya felt the weight of leadership. These men were trusting her judgment with their lives. The insertion happened at midnight, 72 hours later. 2 Blackhawks dropped them in a desolate valley, rotors disappearing into darkness before enemy radar could track them. 7 soldiers, alone in hostile territory, hunting the most dangerous prey imaginable. The march was brutal, 30 kilometers through mountains with full combat loads. They moved in disciplined silence, Maya navigating by starlight and GPS. Bull walked point with her, their communication now seamless, professional, almost brotherly. On the second night, they nearly walked into an enemy patrol. Maya's hand signal froze the team instantly. 6 Taliban fighters passed within 20 meters, talking quietly, unaware. After they passed, Bull squeezed Maya's shoulder, silent acknowledgement that her instincts had saved them. Day 3. They reached the ridgeline overlooking the Scorpion's compound just before dawn. Maya and Bull crawled into position while the others secured their perimeter. The compound sat in a valley bowl, mud brick walls, multiple buildings, armed guards patrolling. Defensible, professional, exactly what she'd expected. Range to primary structure, Maya whispered. Bull checked his rangefinder. 1,000 meters even, wind 3 knots, variable from the northeast. They settled in to wait. Sniper work was 95% patience, 5% precision. Hours passed under the brutal sun. Maya and Bull took turns on the scope, hydrating carefully, never moving unnecessarily. At 1400 hours, Maya spotted movement. A man emerged from the main building, older, moving with the careful economy of a professional soldier. He carried a rifle case. That's him, Bull breathed. Through her scope, Maya studied the Scorpion. He was surveying his own surroundings, checking angles, thinking like a sniper. Then he looked directly at the ridgeline where they hid. He knows, Maya whispered. He knows someone's watching. The Scorpion smiled and walked calmly back inside. It's a trap, Bull said. He's baiting us. Before Maya could respond, gunfire erupted. Their security element was under attack, not from the compound but from behind. The Scorpion had positioned counter-snipers in the hills, waiting for American hunters. Contact rear, Tommy's voice screamed over the radio. A bullet cracked past Maya's head, missing by inches. She rolled left as another round impacted where she'd been lying. Professional fire, precise, deadly. Counter-sniper, 11 o'clock high, Bull shouted, spotting the muzzle flash. But there wasn't just one. The Scorpion had positioned 3 counter-sniper teams in overlapping fields of fire. The hunters had become the hunted. Maya's team was pinned down, taking casualties. She heard Morrison calling for emergency extraction, but helicopters were 40 minutes out. 40 minutes they didn't have. Another shot rang out. One of their security element went down, killed instantly. The enemy fire was too accurate, too coordinated. The Scorpion had done this before. Lured American snipers into the open, then systematically eliminated them. Bull grabbed Maya's arm. We have to move, we're sitting ducks. But Maya's mind was racing through calculations. 3 enemy positions. The Scorpion himself somewhere in the compound. Her team exposed and dying. She could run and maybe survive. Or she could do what she'd trained her entire life to do. No, Maya said, her voice absolutely calm. Give me your thermal scope. What, Maya, we need to. Trust me, she looked at Bull with absolute certainty. This is what I do. Bull stared at her for one long second, then nodded. He handed over his advanced thermal optic and began calling out enemy positions. Maya attached the thermal scope, her movements smooth despite bullets cracking overhead. Through the enhanced optics, heat signatures blazed against the cool mountain background. There, first counter-sniper, 600 meters, partially concealed behind rocks. She saw his heat signature shift as he prepared another shot. Maya fired first. The signature collapsed. One down, Bull confirmed. Second target, 10 o'clock, 750 meters behind that stone wall. Only his rifle barrel and part of his head were exposed. Impossible shot by conventional standards. Maya adjusted for wind, for the bullet drop at extreme angle, for the target's breathing pattern visible in thermal. She fired. The heat signature went dark. How the hell? Bull breathed. Third position, Maya asked, already scanning. I can't. Wait. Movement 12 o'clock, 900 meters, he's repositioning. The third sniper was smart, moving to a new hide, but movement generated heat and thermal optics saw everything. Maya tracked him, leading his movement, calculating his destination. When he settled into his new position, thinking he was safe, Maya was already aimed and waiting. One shot, silence. All counter-snipers down, Bull reported, awe in his voice. 3 shots, 3 kills under 2 minutes. But the main threat remained. The Scorpion himself was still alive, still dangerous, and now he knew exactly who he was facing. Maya scanned the compound through thermal. Multiple heat signatures in buildings, but which one was her target? Then she saw it, a glint of reflected light from a window, not thermal, an optical scope catching sunlight. The Scorpion was aiming at her. He's got a bead on us. Bull yanked her down as a bullet screamed past, so close she felt the shock wave. They rolled behind cover, but their position was compromised. The Scorpion knew exactly where they were. We're pinned, Bull shouted. Morrison, we need extraction now. 30 minutes, Morrison's voice came back. Can you hold? A bullet impacted 6 inches from Maya's head, showering her with rock fragments. The Scorpion was toying with them, demonstrating his superiority. The next shot would be lethal. Maya's shoulder was bleeding, shrapnel from the near miss. Her heart pounded. Every instinct screamed to run, to hide, to survive. But she thought of Ghost lying in a hospital bed, of the 3 American snipers the Scorpion had killed, of her brother Marcus, who never came home. She thought of why she'd become a sniper in the first place. To be the best, to prove herself, to ensure no one else died because of hesitation or fear. Bull, she said quietly, I need you to trust me one more time. Whatever you're thinking, don't. That reflection, I can track it. He's using an older Soviet scope. It gives off a specific glare pattern in sunlight. Maya was already calculating angles, using her knowledge of optics and physics. You can't see him directly. It's a 1,400-meter shot through a window gap with high crosswind. Maya, that's impossible, she smiled grimly. Yeah, but impossible is kind of my thing now. Bull looked at her, this woman who'd been mocked, sabotaged, nearly killed by her own team. This woman who'd proven herself again and again, who'd saved all their lives multiple times. Tell me what you need, he said simply. Wind call, exact, and keep talking to me. I need to time this perfectly. Bull switched to his instruments. Wind 7 knots, gusting to 9, shifting northeast to east, temperature 95 degrees, humidity 12%. Maya settled into position, Ghost's gifted scope on her rifle. She centered her breathing, slowed her heart rate, entered the zone where nothing existed except target and trigger. Through the scope she watched the glint pattern. Every few seconds it shifted slightly as the Scorpion adjusted his aim. Patient, professional, hunting her as she hunted him. But Maya had something he didn't. She had absolute desperation, absolute focus, and nothing left to prove except to herself. She watched the glint, calculated the wind, adjusted for the downward angle, for the bullet drop at extreme range, for the 6-inch window gap that was her only opportunity. Bull's voice was steady in her ear, wind holding at 8 knots, pressure steady. "You've got this." Maya exhaled completely, her finger on the trigger. Her heartbeat slowed to almost nothing. Between one heartbeat and the next, she squeezed. The shot felt perfect leaving the barrel. For 1,400 meters, the bullet flew true. Through the scope, Maya saw the glint disappear. Then a heat signature in the window collapsed. "Silence." "Did you?" Bull whispered. A secondary explosion rocked the compound. The Scorpion had been carrying grenades. Confirmed kill. "Target down," Maya said, her voice barely audible. Bull grabbed his radio. "Morrison, Scorpion is KIA. Chen made the shot. We need extraction now." "Copy, birds inbound." Bull turned to Maya, who was slumped against the rocks, bleeding, exhausted, trembling. He pulled her into a fierce hug. "That was the greatest shot I've ever seen in my life," he said. "Ghost was right. You're the best there is." Maya couldn't speak, couldn't process. She just made an impossible shot under impossible circumstances and killed the most dangerous enemy sniper in theater. The helicopter appeared over the ridge. They ran for it, Bull supporting Maya as blood loss made her dizzy. As they lifted off, Maya looked back at the compound. Somewhere in that building lay the Scorpion, the legend who terrorized American forces for years. Ended by a woman, they'd said, couldn't handle combat. Maya closed her eyes as darkness took her, Bull's voice calling her name fading into peaceful silence. Maya woke to sterile white ceiling tiles and the steady beep of medical monitors. Pain radiated from her shoulder, but it was distant, muted by medication. She tried to sit up and a gentle hand pressed her back down. "Easy, Chen, you're in Landstuhl." Captain Morrison's face came into focus. "You collapsed from blood loss during extraction. You've been out for 18 hours. Memory flooded back, the Scorpion, the impossible shot, Bull carrying her to the helicopter. The team. "Everyone made it. 0 KIA, thanks to you." Morrison's expression softened. "The Scorpion is confirmed dead. 3 years of hunting and you ended it with one shot. Command is. Impressed doesn't begin to cover it." Over the next 3 days, Maya's hospital room became a revolving door. Tommy arrived on crutches, grinning. "You're all over the news back home. Female sniper takes down Taliban's deadliest marksman. My mom called asking for your autograph." Bull came next, carrying an unexpected package. He sat awkwardly beside her bed, then placed a worn set of dog tags in her hand. Maya's breath caught. "These are your brothers, Marcus Chen." Bull's voice was thick with emotion. "I tracked down his unit, found out where he's buried. I visited him, told him his sister is the finest soldier I've ever served with, told him I was sorry for disrespecting his sacrifice by treating you like I did." Tears streamed down Maya's face. She clutched the tags, her brother's name embossed in the metal, the physical proof he'd existed, he'd mattered. "I also visited my brother's grave," Bull continued quietly. "For the first time since the funeral, I finally let myself grieve instead of staying angry. You taught me that. You taught me a lot of things." They sat in silence, 2 soldiers bound by loss and redemption. The biggest surprise came on day 5. Ghost walked in, his arm in a sling but his smile wide. "Ghost, you're supposed to be stateside," Maya exclaimed. "Caught a flight back, had to see you before I retired." He sat carefully, wincing. "I heard about the Scorpion, 1,400 meters through a window gap in crosswind. Maya, I've been shooting 30 years and I couldn't make that shot. You taught me everything I know." "No," Ghost shook his head firmly. "I taught you technique, But that fire inside you, that absolute refusal to quit, that's all you. My daughter's 9 years old. You know what she told me when I called from the hospital? Maya shook her head. She said, "Daddy, when I grow up, I want to be like Sergeant Chen. Not like me, like you." Ghost's eyes glistened. "You're going to inspire a whole generation of soldiers, Maya. Girls who never thought they could do this. You proved it's possible." 1 week later, Maya stood in formation at Forward Operating Base Sentinel, her arms still bandaged but her spine straight. The entire command had assembled, hundreds of soldiers in perfect ranks. Morrison stepped forward with a blue and white ribbon for conspicuous gallantry and intrepidity in action against an enemy of the United States. Staff Sergeant Maya Chen is hereby awarded the Silver Star. The medal felt impossibly heavy on her chest, the applause thunderous. But Morrison wasn't finished. Additionally, by order of the Department of the Army, Staff Sergeant Chen is promoted to Sergeant First Class, effective immediately. Bull was the first to salute her new rank. His salute was crisp, respectful, genuine. Afterward, Morrison pulled her aside. "The Army Sniper School wants you as head instructor. You'd be training the next generation. It's yours if you want it." Maya looked at Viper Team, Bull, Tommy, the others who'd finally become her brothers. "One more rotation," she said. "Then I'll take the position. These men need me and I need them." Morrison nodded. "Fair enough." 6 months later, Sergeant First Class Maya Chen stood on the firing line at Fort Benning, watching a new class of sniper students. 20 recruits, including 3 women. One young woman, Private Jessica Torres, faced mockery from 2 male students. "She can't handle this," one muttered, loud enough to be heard. Maya's whistle cut through the air like a knife. The entire class froze. She walked directly to Torres, who stood rigid with humiliation. Maya's voice carried across the range. "Private Torres, do you know who I am?" "Yes, Sergeant. You're Sergeant First Class Chen, Silver Star recipient, the sniper who killed the Scorpion." "Do you know what they said about me when I joined my unit?" Torres shook her head. "They said I couldn't handle it. They said women don't belong in combat. They sabotaged my equipment, mocked me, tried to break me." Maya's eyes swept the class. "And do you know what I did?" Silence. "I proved myself, not to them, to me." She turned to the 2 male students. "You two, 800 meters, 5 shots. If either of you outshoot Private Torres, I'll buy you both dinner. If she outshoot you both, you're running this range until your legs give out. Clear?" "Yes, Sergeant." 20 minutes later, Torres stood victorious, her grouping tighter than both men combined. As they began their punishment laps, Maya pulled Torres aside. "They're going to keep testing you, keep doubting you, and it's going to hurt." "I know, Sergeant. But I'm going to tell you what someone once told me." Maya handed Torres a custom-built scope, Ghost Scope, the one he'd gifted her. "Show them who you are, not who they think you are, who you know you are." Torres accepted the scope with trembling hands. "I won't let you down." "You couldn't if you tried." That evening, Bull arrived as a guest instructor, now a passionate advocate for integration and diversity in special operations. He and Maya watched the students practicing on the range. "Think we made a difference?" Bull asked. "We proved it's possible," Maya replied. "That's all anyone can do." Her phone buzzed, a text from Tommy, "Wedding next month. You better be there. You're walking me down the aisle since you saved my life and all." Maya smiled. Her team, her family, scattered but never broken. The sun set over Fort Benning, painting the sky in brilliant oranges and reds. Maya stood on the range she now commanded, watching the next generation of snipers train. They'd said she couldn't handle it. They were wrong. Not because she'd proven them wrong, though she had spectacularly, but because she'd proven herself right. She was Maya Chen, Sergeant First Class, Silver Star recipient, elite sniper, instructor, leader. And she was unbreakable. Behind her, Private Tors made a perfect 800-meter shot. The sound echoed across the range like a promise that excellence knows no gender, that courage comes in all forms, that the future of the military was changing. One impossible shot at a time. Maya's voiceover, soft and certain. They mocked me, they sabotaged me, they tried to break me, but every challenge made me sharper, every doubt made me stronger, every impossible shot made me legendary. I didn't just survive their hatred, I transformed it into excellence. And now I'm training the warriors who will change this army forever. That's my legacy, that's my victory, and no one can ever take it away. She turned from the range, the weight of Ghost's dog tags around her neck alongside her brother's, and walked toward her next class. The fight wasn't over, it would never be over. But Maya Chen had proven one undeniable truth. She could absolutely handle this. And so could every soldier who came after her. The end.